Hey there guys, Mike here again. Thanks for clicking this video. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be doing some more mods to my 6D N7 amp here. Some of you guys really liked this build, left some really good comments for me, so let's go ahead and refine this amp even further. So I moved my stereo system underneath the workbench here to kind of keep it out of harm's way and to take up less real estate. I'm blown away how good this thing actually sounds. I've been using it religiously for about 8 months now, and every time I flick the switch, I'm just sit back and I'm amazed how good those little tubes actually sound. So neat thing about tube amps as a hobby and this amp in general, you could easily swap out components to see if you can actually hear a difference. So some of you guys were having a hard time buying some components, so I found and sourced some modern components for this amplifier, and as I promised in the last video, we're going to build a constant current source, so I have all the components for that as well. So to help increase the fidelity of this amplifier, we're going to remove the wire wound cathode resistors on the output section with these Kwame. So these are 680 ohms, 5 watts. These are carbon film resistors with like a silicone coating. They say they have a natural sound and they'll help lower the noise floor because they're not as inductive as the wire wounds. First, we're going to upgrade the bypass capacitors too. So we got some Nikon ones here, and these are audio grade, meant for that type of duty. So hopefully that will increase the sound quality as well. And with the constant current source, we're going to make our own circuit board. So I got this perf board, which we'll do, and I'll show you how that works. So I'll link in the description below of all the components that I have here. So whenever I work on an amplifier that's been turned on, I pull the tubes and I drain the power supply capacitors because they hold a lot of voltage for an extended period of time. This is a little metal rod that has a resistor built into it, and what we're doing is a very fast RC time constant to drain the capacitors. So we just put it on the positive side of each capacitor and that will drain them, and then you can work on them without any issue of getting shocked. So I have a video of this, so please take a look at the link in the description below if you want to know more about this tool. We want to confirm with the voltage is 0, so we'll just use our voltmeter here. So let's start pulling components. So I mentioned in my build video, I put the cathode resistor and the bypass capacitor away from everything with its own standoff. So if I ever want to change them out for different components, I could and make it really easy. These are wire wound ones, so we're going to replace them with those Kwame ones, which are not as inductive as these ones are. So hopefully that will lower the noise floor. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the soldering iron doesn't actually touch any of the other components that are there, because it wouldn't like that. So these are the old console ones that I had from many years ago, and we're going to replace them with this Edcor one. Almost a similar size. I should bolt right in. Yeah, it looks like I might have to drill a new hole, but that's okay. So let's take a look at the output transformer. This is what I had originally spec'd and used in this amplifier. Now this is actually an EL84 output transformer that I scavenged from one of those old console amps. And you know, the ones that have the lid and has the radio and the turntable all built in, encapsulated in wood. This worked pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with this, but a lot of people had a hard time finding something like this, so I recommended in my schematic using the 125 BSE. The reason why it costs a little much is that it is a multi-tap output transformer, so it can do different configurations on primary and secondary impedance, which makes it kind of cool. So it has a 32 ohm tap on it, so you could convert this amplifier into a headphone amplifier if you want to. I wouldn't use a preamp, I would just go right into the front end of the amplifier and wire this up with the 32 ohm and make sure that your headphones match the impedance, and it should sound pretty good. What I'm speccing now for everybody, because people were complaining they couldn't find an output transformer or this was too pricey, is this Edcor, and it's called an XSE 10-8 5K. So it's a pretty beefy 10 watt 5K primary with an 8 ohm secondary. It's all nicely labeled, and it's pretty easy to wire up, just plug and play. So I'll leave a link in the description below on what this is. Edcor usually has that in stock, and you can order it and get it shipped right away. So one hole matches up perfectly, of course it would, and we'll just drill a new hole for the back one here. The new output transformers installed. I have the new bypass caps and bias resistors all installed there. So before we put the constant current source in, we're going to make sure this works perfectly. So I have my multimeter set up on the B+. We're going to watch that rise and then we will check the bias afterwards. And I also got it connected to my current sink here, just in case I made a wiring error, that light bulb goes on, then I have an issue. So let's go ahead and flip this on. Click the switch there. Good, and then we'll flip this on here. And we can see that. And that should start dropping once the tubes warm up. There we go. And then we got current on there. Right on. That seems legit. Seems about right. Okay, so it's drawing current, so let's go ahead and check the bias. So I'm letting this burn in for a bit here, for about an hour now. Everything seems to be settling down. The voltages are back within spec with each other, so that's really good. Everything's settling in there. And we're going to go ahead and test the temperature here with my digital thermometer. So what we're going to do is take a reading on this cathode resistor here. So it seems to be the highest we get is about 29 degrees there, Celsius. Let's do this in Fahrenheit for you guys. So 81. Alright, so let's turn this off now and start building the constant current source. This constant current device actually replaces the load resistor that goes to the plate of the input tube. Now some of you purists may feel that no solid state device should go in a tube amp, and so be it. You don't have to put this in, but I think that this device actually has some merit to it and you should try it out and see if you can actually hear a difference. I do have a worksheet here that I'll link in the description below. This device could actually be used for just about any input tube, just as long as you don't exceed the operating values or heat dissipation on the transistors. So this constant current device has been around for a long time, 15 plus years. I've been dabbling with it, reading the forums and see how people apply it in different applications. It's nothing new. It actually kind of spawns from the Morgan Jones valve amplifier book. So if you want some more information about it, please have a look at the book here. It's well worth a read. It really gets into the nitty-gritty and how this circuit actually performs. So let's talk about the components we have here. This is called a high voltage PNP constant current source. We're using a PNP transistor, two of them as a matter of fact. Now this one, the first one, is a 2N2907A and it comes in a TO39 package. The second transistor is the MGE350 and this is the one that actually dissipates all the heat and gets very, very hot. Sometimes you'd want to put a heat sink on it for longevity or if you're trying to dissipate more heat. To set the bias of these transistors, we're actually going to be using these tiny little LEDs, and these are the HLMP 6000, and these tend to work the best, and you can see a little line there, that's the negative side. To set the current, I'm going to go with some 1% resistors. I recommend getting the best quality resistors you can, therefore your current is set and you don't get any drift. So let's go ahead and review the schematic. So this is a constant current device here in the hatched area, and it will maximize gain and minimize distortion when used as a plate load by keeping the current constant and the impedance high. So all we're going to do is replace this plate load resistor with this circuitry. And we know from the original schematic that this runs at about 2 milliamps, so we can just use Ohm's law to figure that out. So we'll set the current device at 2 milliamps. But first we need to set the LED bias string. The LEDs like to run at about 2 milliamps, so using the B+ at 320, we put it into Ohm's law, and we see that we can run 160k ohm. So we can either use 3 50k in series or 2 300 in parallel. So now we need to calculate the actual current setting resistor. We know we're going to run at 2 milliamps. This node here will always see 1 volt or 0.95 volts across it. It always does, no matter what. So we just pump this into Ohm's law and it comes across as a 500 ohm resistor. With a 1%er, we're going to use a 499 ohm. And that's it. So the circuit board's completed, all ready to be mounted to the amplifier. Pretty straightforward, nothing too complicated about this. A few things to note: I will provide a worksheet with actually how to populate the circuit boards, and this is the top view. If you flip it upside down, don't get confused, it will be reversed. A few things about the circuit board when you're wiring it: make sure the LEDs, the negatives, is facing towards the black transistor. I flip the LEDs upside down so I know visually where the negatives, so I don't mix it up when I'm wiring it. And also the orientation of the transistor is very important. If they are not connected properly, they will not work, and you might even blow them up. So I've done a resistor string here. So this is the bias resistor for the LEDs, and I put these in series. If you're looking for a specific value, or you're trying to make a value for you on how to bias yours, you could also put this in parallel as well. So let's go ahead and mount these in the amplifier. I made some standoffs here, and we will just screw these into a mounting bolt here that secures the terminal strips. And wiring the board is pretty straightforward. It's only 3 wires. So one is the negative, one is the B+, and one goes to the plate of the tube. So all we need to do is remove the plate load resistor and bypass that with the circuit board. From the LED bias string, this goes to ground. From the black transistor here, it goes to the plate, and then this goes to the B+. So we're all set for testing here. Got the voltmeter connected again to the B+. So let's flick it on. All right, so now we should see the LEDs light up once the current draw, and it should start making sound. So there is a faint glow of the LEDs. Test the plate voltage of the input tube. When I built these current sinks here, I made a little test point right here so it'd be easy to test. 67 volts, and on the other side we have 70 volts. So that's pretty close to what the original schematic has said. I say they work. So the amplifier's been running for a couple hours now. It seems to be burning in nicely. I'm really happy with this last bit of mods. It seems to put the icing on the cake on this amplifier. Another added benefit for the constant current device is that it has a really good ripple rejection, so to help quieten the amplifier down quite a bit. So if you plan to use this as a headphone amp, I'd recommend installing them. As I mentioned, I'll be linking this worksheet in the description below, so if you want to build them, just follow along. You probably adapt them to other input tubes, just as long as you don't exceed the capacity of the transistor. I have a couple more amplifier build videos planned, so please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon. So if you like this type of video, I got a couple other cool ones coming up. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.